Brought to you by the Every Dollar app. Start budgeting for free today.
Hey, Paige, welcome to the show.
Hello. My question is, my husband doesn't want to try and budget. Every time I bring it up, it's this big fight about who spends most money on the most worthless things. And I don't know how to handle that.
It's beyond that. It's the tit for tat game. You did this.
Yeah.
Well, I did that.
Man.
Well, you do this.
So how are when these conversations come up, let's kind of retro back a little bit. When these conversations have come up, have they come up in the heat of the moment, or has it been like, hey, honey, or hey, boo, whatever you call your spouse, I want to sit down and talk. Here's what I'd like to talk about. Is it that sort of thing? Or is it just like this is happening out of the heat of a moment of somebody opening up a bill for something?
I wouldn't say it's normally like the heat of the moment, but it's always like when we go paycheck to paycheck week after week, you always scraping the barrel. And then I'm like, hey, can we try this? And then he like gets super mad about it. And then it's just paycheck to paycheck. It's the same thing.
You just want to break that cycle.
Yeah.
Part of it, I think part of it's how you approach it. I think that if instead of attacking the conversation as we need to stop doing this, we're just living paycheck to paycheck, that we've got to start getting on a budget. I think if you kind of approach it in the way of, I'm really worried and I'm really scared and I've just been noticing like my anxiety is going nuts. And I think it's because we're overspending. I think it's because we are not on the same page and I'd really like to be on the same page. What does that look like to you? Like I'd kind of throw the ball in their court of like, what do you think that looks like? And that way it's not you saying, not necessarily coming in saying, this is what we need to be doing, but just opening up that conversation. Have you tried that?
I have tried that, and I've suggested a few different things like, hey, we put both our paychecks into the joint account for bills and such. You can put X amount, I'll use like $300 for an example, into your own personal account to spend it on what you want, gas station, whatever. And then once you go past that, you can't dip into the
okay, so Paige, already, can I say this? Already, it's becoming a Paige is telling, what's your husband's name? Or if you don't want to say, well,
Bob.
We'll call him Bob. We'll call him.
Oh, okay.
It's already you almost in a maternal role of, okay, we're going to put your money here and you can't do this and this. It is still this hierarchy of you being the kind of a authority in a sense. And so the goal would be, just to paint you a picture, is that you are both a team. You both are equal in this. He has as much say in this as you do. You have as much say as he does. And it's you guys together saying, oh yeah, this and this and this and this, versus one telling one what to do, if that makes sense. And so
that makes sense.
Yeah, and I would say this too with an asterisk, there's naturally always going to be more of the nerd, and there's naturally always going to be the free spirit. Right. So like Winston forever will love Excel and love the budget and love painting out what investments of this more than me, which is funny because this is my job and this is like what I do every day. But he actually is more of the numbers and thrives on that and more of the saver than I am. So he won't change who I am, but the way we approach our money together can still be as a team. So always know that. You still will have your own personalities. He may never just love the budget like Paige does. And that's okay. But as long as you're both in it together, that's going to be the goal. So I would want to know, do you know his hesitation, what it is that he kind of pushes back against and why he pushes back against it?
I think he likes to kind of be in control a little bit. I know he's always brought up the fact that before we even got together, I had no problem, with my money. But
so he's trying to kind of make it you're the blame. Kids are the blame.
But our lives have changed since we met.
Sure.
We live in a different place, and things are more expensive, and two kids to do through daycare, and
So I would ask him then, back just to keep the conversation going, because I think Jade's point's really good. It's like I want to hear from him. And so like, okay, so you're saying that before all of this you were you didn't have money problems, which to a degree, duh, because you didn't have all these expenses, right?
Right.
That's what we're all thinking. But also, what did you have in place that worked really well? Because he
That's
may
good.
have his own way of doing stuff that you don't see. That maybe you actually could implement. And so I think, again, it's going back to this, like, it's this team mentality, which I know is so easier said than done, Paige, because we're about to get off the air here in 5 minutes and go home. And I know you're the one that's having to have these conversations. But as much as you guys can sit down and say, gosh, I feel like this is pinning us against each other. And we can't be against each other. Like, we are in this together and we both want to win. Like no one wants to choose to have a stressful, anxious life and marriage. And so,
no one's trying to say whose fault it is. Like, if you and Bob can both agree, the problem is
it's us.
It's us. Like, we're paycheck to paycheck. Both of us don't like that. Both of us would love to get to a point where we've got savings and, we're out of debt. Like, if you guys can surround that and like lock arms around that, and that's where you're going to move forward.
Yeah. And sometimes, Paige, especially with guys, it's kind of a stereotype, so it may not be true for him. But I have found, like, when you can put numbers and actual facts instead of just ideas and theories of cutting back and all this, when you actually see numbers down, sometimes it helps because you can actually blame the numbers instead of blaming each other. And so I would just say, hey, one night, like after dinner, can we please, and just ask them, will you just give me an hour? And I want to pull out the bills and I just want to look and, like, what if I just want to, and help me do it, right? Bring him in. That Paige isn't bringing everything and Paige isn't telling what the numbers are. Together, we're having a conversation. So will you just sit down, because I want to know, like, okay, what are you spending on gas? And you guys just make this puzzle and lay out the numbers and kind of just do a mock budget together. Again, I don't want it to be conflict filled or tension filled. This is just bringing numbers to the table, and let that be a starting point, because I think sometimes in our heads, things can be magnified. In our heads, things can be isolating. There's so much that if we just keep up in our head and in our mind, it just can go sideways. And when things are down and you're looking at actual facts and looking at actual numbers, sometimes, not always, but sometimes that kind of like diffuses the tension, because you see that. And then from there, look at the tactical. And then also, it's like, if it's going well that night, or maybe it's another night, dream and just say, hey, what would it look like in 5 years? What does our life look like? How old are our kids? What grade are they going to be in? Where do we want to be? Like, just start to, like, have this vision of where you guys want to be as a family. And there's something about being proactive in that is so inspiring than just living life paycheck to paycheck, month to month, and you look up and it's been 5 years and you don't know where, you don't know where you're going. And so having that, I think, is really key too, Paige. But just know you're not alone in this. This is one of the biggest problems we hear from people, is that one spouse is on board and wants to do this and another isn't. So you're not alone in it. And also, we've heard so many couples on our debt-free stage say, gosh, I wasn't on board. I thought y'all were crazy. And then finally I got on board and together we did this. So even couples who win start out where you guys are. So have hope, Paige, that this can change. It really can. But I think it's really the way you approach it. Don't be the mom.
Definitely don't be the mom.
Have a humble spirit about it. But bring, this conversation. It's a conversation to be had. It's not pointing fingers and blame. Even this picture of put the numbers out in front of you and, like, lock arms and, like, it's us against you numbers. Like, you know what I mean? It's not us against each other. So
it's good.
It's powerful, Paige. It's a big part of winning, is you and your spouse. And just for the sake of your marriage, not just your money, for the sake of your marriage, I pray that that this brings you guys together. So thanks for the call.